Right now in Canada, we have over 2 million Muslim immigrants in this country. The UK has 4.5 million, and if you have seen what's going on over there, it's an absolute disaster. Meanwhile, in Canada, we have pro-Hamas hate groups on our street every single day. This despite the fact that we've already had a ceasefire. You want to see body bags rolled down the street, fake blood on their hands, screaming intifada in our lifetime, which means violent revolution, threatening anybody who dares to approach them with police escorts. We're still seeing this on a daily basis in Canada. When are Canadians going to wake up and realize the fact that this is an Islamic takeover of this country? These people are not here to adopt our customs that used to be refugees arriving to Canada would assimilate to Canadian culture. That clearly, it has never been more apparent, is not happening here in Canada. You walk around, you see 30% of the women walk around with hijabs, their eyes completely covered. This Sharia law mandates that women are not allowed to leave the house without a male escort, not allowed to leave the house without a male escort, that gays are thrown off of buildings, if not thrown in prison for long periods of time, that if you so-called blaspheme against Allah, you are sentenced to a minimum 10 years in prison, and very frequently the result is much worse than that. These people do not believe in free expression. They do not believe in freedom of religion. The 56 Muslim majority countries are extremely violent. The amount of sectarian inter-Muslim violence you see in every single one of these countries is shocking. Crime rates in Canada the past 10 years, you think it's a coincidence that they are up across major categories, almost across the board, 70, 80, 100%. This is not a coincidence. Your demographics are your destiny. We continue to invite hundreds of thousands of people into Canada from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Palestine. This is insanity, and it has to stop now. If you follow what's going on in the UK, it is a total mess right now. There are Muslim majority areas where police are now not allowed to operate. They're considered to be no-go zones by the locals, and these are becoming more and more prevalent. We see 82 Sharia courts, and we're seeing the same thing in Canada now. We are literally seeing areas in Canada where you're not allowed to put Halloween lights up because Muslims don't like it. We're seeing halal in more and more schools. Wake the hell up, Canada. Demographics are destiny. If we continue to allow millions of people to pour into our country who hate our way of life, who have these hate rallies on our street every day, what exactly do you think the Canada that your children grow up in? By at this pace, they're saying by 2041, Canada will be majority minority. What type of a country do you want your kids to grow up in? Do you want to live in a country that values its sovereignty, values its free speech, values its freedom of expression? Because when you continue to allow millions of people into Canada who do not share in any way, shape, or form the values that have made this country so fantastic, the values that have made Western civilization so fantastic. And of course, free speech is the absolute fundamental bedrock pillar there. Without a free tongue, without free speech, without being able to genuinely express yourself, you're not even a human being. The government does not even respect you that much. Now in Canada, largely in order to make the Muslim population happy, they're passing things like Bill C-8, which expands the definition of hate speech to so-called fomentation of detestation and vilification. And we're being told, watch out for your Islamophobia. Since when are we not allowed to criticize a religion that has a prophet named Muhammad who at 54 years old slept with a 9-year-old? I don't know, what exactly would you call that? But in Canadian culture, that is not considered to be appropriate. That mandates that women are not allowed to leave their house without male escorts. That gays are thrown off of buildings. That expressing certain thoughts results in a certain death sentence. It is not Islamophobic. And by the way, Islam is not a race. It's a set of ideas. It's a religion. If we're not allowed to criticize them, then we have already lost. As the great Christopher Hitchens pointed out in 2008, do not let them cow you. Do not let them intimidate you, as the Liberals do in Canada with this accusation that you are in some way Islamophobic. It's BS. Anybody who comes from a totalitarian society with an authoritarian deity like the Muslims do have, which, let's just be honest, the difference between Christianity, Judaism, Islam is Islam states that this is God's final words. There could be no words after what the prophet was spoken to. And what makes that so scary, so totalitarian, is because it's inherently tyrannical, authoritarian. This is God's final message. You are not allowed to question it in any way, shape, or form. And if you blaspheme or if you do things that are not in line with what he's saying, it can be justifiably met with the harshest penalty possible. We do not see nearly the same type of violence coming from whether it be Christianity, whether it be Judaism. It's just a fact that since September 11, 2001, there have been over 65,000 terror attacks carried out by Muslims. You look at that number compared to Christianity, you look at that number compared to Judaism, they're not even in the same ballpark. They're not even close to one another, and you will get called an Islamophobe. They will call you every name in the book for pointing that out when it's just facts. Look at the numbers. It's just facts. There's a reason that the Quran is so incredibly violent. If you read through it, 142 explicit calls to violence in their text. It doesn't make you an Islamophobe, make you racist to be nervous when you hear somebody screaming Allahu Akbar, and you don't hear that from the other types of religions. And now in Canada, the Liberals are weaponizing it. The over 2 million Canadians who are now in Canada, over 85% of the time vote Liberal, which is why they continue to allow them to report in the country, because it's a new voter base as well. And they will continue to cry about minority rights until you become a majority. Please tell me what Muslim majority country that Christians are allowed to live safely in. Oh wait, there isn't one. Can you imagine Canadians showing up in a Muslim majority country, waving their Canadian flag around time after time after time, talking about how Palestine or Iraq or Afghanistan was an evil country? Do you have any idea how those people would be dealt with in these Muslim majority countries? It would be ugly, and it would be ugly quick, and it would be dealt with swiftly. What do they receive in Toronto or Ottawa or Montreal? These hate mobs on our street spewing the most violent, hateful intifada, which means violent revolution rhetoric in our life. They receive police escorts. The police escort them. The police are on their side. Our Liberal government literally supports this stuff. Mark Carney, directly out of the horse's mouth. Mark Carney at a conference a couple of months ago goes, Muslim values are Canadian values. How pathetic is that? These liberal virtue signalers are now going out literally in a country like Canada with fundamental values of freedom of speech, of freedom of religion. How can you possibly state that Muslim values are Canadian values and be elected our prime minister? The invasion of Canada needs to stop. Violent terrorists need to be removed and deported. They do not belong anywhere near Canada. And these hate mobs that we continue to see on our streets need to end, and they need to end now. Please like, share, subscribe, join, become a member, grab some gear, donate. Really appreciate it to everybody who supported. It's time once and for all to say the Muslim takeover of Canada has to end now.